I'm Dr. Peter McCullough, and welcome to Focal Points and America Out Loud Talk Radio McCullough Report. It's a great pleasure to invite to the show for the first time Miss Laura St. John. Laura got on my radar screen recently on at a freedom event, a health freedom event, and she introduced herself as the Alphabet Chef. I said, "Wow, that is so neat. I wanted to learn more." So, Laura, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Well,
It's
our
great.
audience is excited to learn about you. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into this very unique position?
Okay. Well, I have a degree in interdisciplinary studies, which is a combination of a few degrees: advertising, marketing, and performance. And I'm a self-taught advocate for healthy foods. So I focus on whole foods, supplements, and exercise, that kind of thing. And after getting married and having two kids, I was trying to figure out a way to get them to eat healthy. So, and just having my performance background, I was just like, well, I'll just make it fun for them. I'll go in the kitchen, dress like a chef, make this crazy voice, and put on like a chef hat. And that's how the Alphabet Chef came about. So I started getting like requests to come into my kids' schools. And the kids, when we had sleepovers, the kids that would come would be like, do the chef, do the chef. So I would be like doing this character. And then I started thinking, hey, I could turn this into a branch of my business. So I trademarked the name a long time ago, and been doing it in schools and community centers, libraries, that kind of thing. And it's just, I'm just combine the passion of loving children and loving good, healthy foods, and just my passion for performing. So I combined all those together and created Alphabet Chef. So that's how it kind of came about. I also have a couple children's books. And then one of them that I have two that are like books. And then the last one I just did is an Alphabet Chef coloring book. So that just came out. So it teaches the kids different things in the book about, the food groups and eating, about the coloring book. Just a nice way for them to learn. So it's kind of how it came about.
Well, let's talk about nutrition and children.
Yeah.
And why one would ever develop a concern about childhood nutrition. So tell us what you know about trends on both healthy choices and portion control in children and the problem of obesity.
Well, I mean, children all over the world are our future, and they're becoming overweight and obese. I think it's like 20% of American children are obese. And the way, their body mass index is like 85 to 95. And I know genetics plays a part of that, but the alphabet teaches kids to love healthy foods at an early age, which is one of the things that I try to teach them when there's like sponges still and they're willing to accept it. There's like a short window. And, a lot of this stuff parents know and they don't know how to implement. And the kids like to not be really told what to do, just like anybody. So you have to kind of go about it in a subtle way. So when I just with my own kids, when they would come home from, let's say, staying at someone's house or whatever, they'd say, hey, Sally didn't have any fruits and vegetables, so can I have some of that? So their mindset was already set at a young age. Hey, if I don't have this, I need to get it somewhere. So I think when little kids kind of have that ingrained in their brain, they grow up as adults thinking that way too. So, and I see it working. I see teachers, telling me that the kids are competing for their lunches. I tell them to, get a little prize. So they compete with their lunches at who has the healthiest lunch and all that. So, the kids get excited with the program I have, and it's not like a forceful going into the school, changing the cafeteria food and all that. Kids have the choice. They can choose what they want. So that's kind of what I teach them.
At what age can children begin becoming receptive to healthy choices, in your view?
I think it's right away. Yeah, right when you start feeding them solids.
Really?
I think so. Whatever you put on the, the high chair, you cut it in small pieces or whatever you want to do. They learn that, and you expose them to different foods. And like I even tell the kids at the school, hey, just try one bite. If you've never had a kiwi or whatever it is, and they do, and they're like, hey, I like that. So I think you can teach them at a real young age.
Do you think mothers should start with baby food in jars?
Well, I think people can make their own, but the jarred food is fine. It depends on which one you get. A lot of them have some sugar in them, and you have to kind of look. They have organic ones. And, it just depends on what your lifestyle is. You can make your own baby food. There's lots of cylinders and things that you can actually push like bananas through, and it comes out like a mush. You've probably seen it. So, I mean, I think it's good to start with that.
Let's just say I'm a young parent, and I'm with great fear and trepidation. I've listened to you, and I'm just trying some baby food. Let's say kind of mashed up green beans or mashed up spinach, something green. And I give a little baby spoon to the baby, and the baby just spits it back at me. Um, how many times should I try in order to figure out if the child's really going to accept it?
Well, I think you mix it with other things like applesauce. And, once you do that, maybe, all our taste buds change as we get older. So try it maybe again in a month, or 2 weeks, see what happens, mix it with things. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do to help. And there's all kinds of recipe books out there to support that.
I was told that in human behavior, it takes about 7 tries before somebody actually accepts something or changes a behavior. So, you'd have to try those that spinach or green beans or Brussels sprouts, about 7 times. You really can't give up. You just kind of keep introducing it, giving it a shot before the kid. Would you agree with that? It takes more than one shot. You shouldn't give up after just one try, right?
Definitely, yeah. And make it fun. Make it fun, sing, whatever you feel like you want to do. I mean, I sing too, so I kind of used to sing with my kids when I was feeding them. And you just got to make it fun. And that's what the Alphabet Chef does. And I teach really little kids. So,
at what age do you start getting the kids to laugh about this?
I mean, really pre-K, before pre-K, really.
Really?
Yeah, pre-K to 3rd and 4th grade. After 5th grade, the kids are like, okay, she's kind of silly. So I don't usually, if I do a teen seminar for healthy eating, I don't wear the costume and all that. Mm-hmm. But I have done seminars for teenagers and adults. So
yeah, I had an interview with Dr. Sabine Hazen, who's an expert in the microbiome, and I was asking her questions, and she said that when the human body starts eating healthy food, the microbiome changes, and then tastes and desires in food urges change, and you want more healthy food. And the converse is true. Once there's junk food and there's burgers and fries and chicken McNuggets, once the kids start eating that they want that again. Does that agree with the Alphabet Chef's kind of understanding?
Yeah, I think that's true. The more kids have sodas and juices, like you should always cut your juice with water because there's a lot of sugar in the juices, and most parents know that. Soda is like really bad, any kind of soda, and I tell the kids really cut back or don't even start it, because then you get in the habit of drinking it. And water is, the best, and you can put flavors in water and all that.
Sure, and the human body wants water, and everything else from coffee to tea to sodas, it turns out when they get filtered in the bladder, they're bladder irritants. That's the reason why you drink coffee or you drink, Coca-Cola. You just feel like you really have to go to the bathroom. I should tell you something unique about my daughter who's visiting right now. She's 30 years old, and every kid has something unique about them. Instead of getting a tattoo or something unusual, my daughter's claim to fame is she's never had even a sip of a carbonated beverage.
Really?
So she's never had a Coca-Cola or a Sprite, a ginger ale, never.
Wow. That's
Have you
crazy.
Have you ever met a kid who's had the discipline to do that?
No. Are you sure? I'm sure she's. That's crazy. I've never heard that.
Yeah, when she's very young, she set out her goal to actually never have that, which I thought was absolutely amazing. You've heard about people not drinking alcohol or not doing various things, but I've always thought that was amazing. Well, are there some never foods for children that they should never eat? I mean, are you ever that absolute with the kids?
I'm not, and that's one of the things. I mean, I want to share my alphabet chef philosophy, and I actually have some notes here I want to share. Sugars, obviously, I talk to them about sugars and tell them cut back. I don't tell them to exclude it. I just tell them to keep it in moderation. Like nobody wants to be told, hey, you can't have that, especially kids. So if you keep things in moderation, that's the best. The processed foods, and I know we're hearing a lot about dyes right now.
Mm-hmm.
Processed foods slow down your metabolism. That's another contribution to obesity. It can, make things hard to process in your body. And same with the dyes. It kind of slows things down. It makes things sluggish. So I really encourage kids to not eat a lot of processed foods. And time constraints in families, the schedules these days. I mean, parents are doing their best. And that's why I tell people, hey, do meal preps on the weekend. Make it a family thing, like on the weekends when things are slower and you're not doing activities and homework and running around, and make things healthier then. And when you go grocery shopping, go together. And I teach the kids to look up instead of down, because I put all the sugary stuff at the bottom of the shelf.
Wow.
So and the kids are like, oh, they're tricking us, Mom, let's look up here. And so you get them involved in the process of trying to make choices that are healthier. It's amazing how they want to be part of the process. And like I said, I think with schedules, if people do a lot of things on the weekends to get healthier foods during the week, it's best. So
are there some kind of key things that parents should look for on the ingredients list of something? Going through a store, when you say processed food, how can you tell something that's processed versus something that's not? Like, what type of guide would you give a young mother or father?
Yeah, there's lists online you can look up, but if you can't pronounce the word and it doesn't look natural to you, sometimes they say, natural flavoring. What exactly is that? They put everything in really small print. So there's different apps you can get. I'm sure you've heard of them, where you can click on a label of a product and it will tell you the breakdown if it's a good or bad product.
Yeah. My wife is using one of those right now. Do they work? It's an app on her phone.
They do. I don't want to promote which one right now, but everyone can do their own research. It's a really cool thing. That's one good thing about our devices. You show the products and the UPC, I think it is sometimes. It'll tell you the ingredients that, is this healthy or not healthy?
So by and large, you think those apps are useful?
I do. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Because my wife is using one, and I can't remember the name of it, but she takes her phone up to any barcode and she scans it, and the rating scale goes from a 0 to 100. And she'll say, wow, that's a 94. Or today I had something that was a 74, for instance. And I guess it integrates all different aspects of health. But I am amazed, and she's using it a lot now to make various points. So I think these apps are a breakthrough. And my wife just started doing this in the last few months.
That's good. That's good. Well, I mean, you obviously eat well. You both, you're a heart guy, so you know what's important. But I think that's a way to get kids involved too, is they have their phones and they can just, hey, mom, let me scan that with their phone. So it gets kids involved too, to look at with the
Okay,
apps.
that's actually a great idea. Now, in your experience, if you have an obese child in a family and the parents are heavy, but they really get into the alphabet chef methodology, they really start to kind of follow you, and maybe they've gone to one of your programs. Uh, can you actually change the weight trajectory of let's say a 4-year-old or 5-year-old child?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's never too late, and especially at that age.
Do you think children are more pliable and malleable in terms of their weight, in terms of as compared to adults?
Yes, because they have their metabolism is going to be higher, as we get older. Our metabolism slows down and their activity levels higher. Hopefully, that's one of the things I talk to the kids about. Don't be on your devices all day. Get outside, do stuff, exercise. So I think they have more opportunities where they can lose weight. They're more active, hopefully not sedentary. And we have, as adults and parents, have to show an example. We have to be active ourselves. We have to eat the right things. We have to watch, what we're doing, bringing into our bodies.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask you something about that. Since you've seen so many children and adults over your course of your career, do you see commonly obese children but normal weight adults? Is that common?
It is. It is. But I do see a lot of where the family looks the same build.
The whole family.
Yeah. But I have seen, because kids tend to, be on their devices too much and their parents aren't paying attention. The processed foods, again, are so common, and people's activity, their schedules, they do in quick foods. There's not the farm to table approach anymore. I wish it was, and I try to promote that.
Mm-hmm.
People are in a rush all the time and have to do that quick stuff. So I do see kids where there might be slightly a different build than their parents, but I mean, we are what we eat, and we want to, shop with our kids, cook with our kids, get them involved, and when I talk to the kids, they're like, well, I've never, I showed them a pineapple and they're like, well, that's SpongeBob's house. And I'm like, have you ever had a pineapple? And, they don't relate it to anything that they've actually eaten. It's like, oh, it's SpongeBob's house, So, and we're the purchasers, so we have to purchase the right things.
That's so true. Now, have you noticed a secular change through the pandemic? I understand family schedules and being busy, but the big change I've noticed that mom and dad are now, they're not both at the office all the time. It's been a huge shift to people working at home. The people are at home now. They're working at home. Has that changed things? Do parents have more time or availability in the house to cook?
Yeah, I think that has changed, and also homeschooling. A lot of more parents are doing that. They're homeschooling, so they have more time to cook at home for the kids. So I think it's starting to. It's such a big topic right now, and everybody's talking about it. And I think it starts from a little age, focusing on those little minds and getting them, used to the types of foods that are good for their body. And one of the pages of my book, my coloring book, shows a dad, filling up his car with gas. And that's the kind of approach I take. You're fueling your body with good gas, fueling your car with good gas, and it makes it run better. And they start thinking in those terms, and they get it. They get it. And they start telling their parents, hey, I don't want that cereal that has all that sugar. I'd like to try this one instead. So it's interesting how they start, and even the parents and teachers tell me, wow, this is working.
Now, when I was a kid, the big deal when we went to school is, were we going to bring our lunch or were we going to buy our lunch at school? And I grew up in a family with very little resources. So you can imagine we were bringing our lunch to school. It was like we just never had the money to buy lunch at school. And the question I have is, has that changed over time? Is it still the majority bring their lunches to school, or do many kids, are they bought, or is it provided for them?
I think it's a mix still. I mean, a lot of the kids that are underprivileged can't, don't even have a lunch.
Mhm.
So the school gives them a lunch. So the only option they have is the school lunches. But yeah, I think it's either or. I see both. So the school's lunches are important too, but you want to make them so they're attractive to kids, and not just a slab of potatoes sitting there, and it's like, yeah, you got to make it interesting and fun, and so
In your opinion, Laura, have the schools improved in terms of the quality of school lunches, or is it still something that really needs to be, worked on?
from what I'm hearing, it's some have, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. A lot of work that needs to be done with that, and hopefully that's going to change. Because I think this is such a big topic right now, and we
It's
want to focus on it.
it's true. If there was predominantly healthy options, it seems like it'd be a lot better. I mean, never forget one time I went with my son on a Boy Scout trip. And this was a trip where the little kids were trying to ski, and I was one of the parents who was just trying to help out. I was kind of at home base. And the one thing I remember about this Boy Scout trip, there was nothing healthy to eat, nothing. And it was food. I basically couldn't eat it. It was just so awful. It was all just sugars, starch, and saturated fat. And it made me think, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, churches, elementary schools. I mean, there is a tremendous opportunity to teach healthy choices. And the question is, where has been the American Dietetics Association and the dietitians and the food pyramid and all of that? What happened to all that?
Yep. Well, when I talk to the kids, I make sure my program is always reviewed by a nutritionist, pediatrician. I have people that I consult because they have the training. So I want people to know that, I do consult people. But a lot of this stuff is so basic.
Mhm.
And parents, can do this too. I just take it to a different level because I'm a performer. So I created this character, and kids, gravitate towards it. But I think it's important to make the whole child see the big picture of everything, and that just, it doesn't happen overnight. Like if you've already taught your kid to eat a certain way, donuts, sugar, soda, whatever, by teens, it's real hard to adjust those eating habits.
I'll never
And
forget when my daughter was very young. We got some type of refrigerator or dryer or something in a box, and we had decided that she wanted to make the box into like a little house, right? So that she could play in this house. And so the game she wanted to play was that she had her own restaurant, and that she would come out and take orders from my wife and myself. And it was the cutest little game that it's funny how kids want to play games like that way more than play with their plastic toys and everything else. They wanted to play an adult game of ordering something at a restaurant. And I always thought to myself, gosh, what a great opportunity. Kids love to do that. They love to reverse the roles and then be the adult. And do you ever do that type of thing with the alphabet chef, where you kind of reverse roles and they're the ones who are the chefs?
yeah, sometimes we cook together, we make recipes together, and a lot of those kid cooking shows are great because those kids are competing, the kid chef or whatever they're,
Mm.
um, I think all of that has brought kids into the mold of, hey, I can decide what I want to eat. I can make those choices for myself. When like when you pick out outfits for them to wear to school, you don't give them just one option. You give them three that you want, but they'll choose one of those three, and you give them those choices. Same with food. You can give them bananas, strawberries, and pineapple, and they can choose one of those. But you give them those three choices, and then they feel like they have some kind of control. Everybody wants to have some kind of control over something in their life, and you give them these little tidbits of things like food, and that doesn't change as they get older. Oh, I'd rather have hummus instead of French fries. And they start thinking in those terms. It's like a brain setup thing. And like I told you, I don't tell kids not to deprive themselves of a cookie or a cupcake. Just don't do it every day. That's what I tell them.
Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. I remember my mom, typically she'd make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and there would be some carrots or celery in a bag and something else. But I always remember those carrots and celery, because they wouldn't get crunched or go bad in a bag very easily. And so, we'd carry these bags, these brown bags, lunch bags to school. And that's what it was. But it was important that there was some fundamentals in terms of healthy choices. But when I was a kid, I don't remember any obese children. I really don't. All the kids kind of had skinny legs, and everyone was running around. And the challenge now is, obese children. Do you ever teach, as the alphabet chef, do you ever teach portion control?
I am so glad you brought that up, because we, even as adults, don't understand what serving sizes are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you look on the box, and most people don't, you pour a bowl of cereal, and it's a big bowl, and the amount of calories on the side say, oh, for a quarter cup of this amount of cereal, you're getting this many calories. But we have to multiply it by 6, because we just poured 6 quarter cups into the bowl. So kids need to understand, the more you eat, supersize everything or make things bigger, you're going to have that many more calories. And it's about the calorie intake. And if you're burning it off, sugar turns into fat, that. And I think I teach that to the kids, sugar turns into fat. If you're not burning it off, it's going to turn into fat. And your body uses fat for energy, but we just don't need that much, based on how much energy we're using. But I think serving sizes and portions is important. Yeah. Everything's larger now. Everything's bigger.
Well, so true. When you go to restaurants now, do you advise when people go to restaurants that you split the portions, like order one order, let's say mom and a child, and split it, as opposed to ordering separate?
Well, it depends. If that child or that mom needs those calories, I would say no. But a lot of the kids' meals that restaurants have are not healthy options. Like, you could say, oh, can you substitute a salad for the fries? And they say no. So that, restaurants need to adjust that. They need to make lettuce be greener. They always use the iceberg. No offense against iceberg. I'm sorry, iceberg, but I like the greener, and I teach the kids to choose the greener, lettuces that are more deeper green. That aren't just water, because iceberg is mainly water. And, I think restaurants, and we all have a responsibility for this obesity thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not being talked about, like you said, in the restaurants and when people go out and they order things. But I don't think splitting meals is a good idea.
Do you typically advise parents to just order for the kids off the adult menu and just skip the kids menu?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a cost factor, and then you always get a soda with the kids' meal too, usually for free. So that entices them to drink soda. And I think sometimes the kids much rather, and sometimes when when I'm sorry, I'm looking down. When I order, let's say we order a hamburger or something we want to eat, you can take half the bun off for the kids, and that will cut back on the
Mhm.
carbs that they're taking in. And it's you can do stuff like that.
What do you think about ordering hamburger and just skipping the bun? Just ask it to be like in lettuce.
Yeah, I mean that's great if the kids will eat
Mhm.
it. Yeah, great. That's
Mhm.
becoming an option at some restaurants. I've seen that, but not in the kids meal option.
Ah,
So that
that, that's so true because they're mass produced. We're going to take a break here. We've been talking to Laura St. John, and you see the big smile on her face. She's the alphabet chef. So for all of my younger followers, young parents, check her out. We're going to provide the links to the alphabet chef, her books, her videos about how to make nutrition fun for children, but also really set a pattern for healthy eating that's lifelong. So we'll be back on the other side of this break. You're listening to Focal Points and America Out Loud Talk Radio McCullough Report. And I'm Dr. Peter McCullough, your host. Pause right here. Let's get real. Let's get loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. This is McCullough Report. And I'm Dr. Peter McCullough and Focal Points Substack. We're having a great conversation with Laura St. John. I'm learning so much. I'm not a grandfather, but maybe I'll be one soon. And I can't wait to, use everything I've learned with Laura. I'm testing some of my little pet theories about nutrition and children. And Laura just said, skip the kids' menu at the restaurant. Sounds like a good idea. How do you navigate places like McDonald's and Burger King, Whataburger, Chick-fil-A? Should parents go to these places? Is it possible to come out okay on nutrition?
Oh gosh, no, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but there are things on those menus that are decent. They really are, and you have to look at those and focus on those. Don't do those very often. If you need to, in a pinch, go to get fast food or whatever, but don't do it often if you
Hmm.
can help it. And then there's a lot of people that just do
It
that.
seems like I'll never forget one time when my kids were very small. They were in those little car seats that went backwards in the back seat. You remember those? And my kids, she didn't tell me, but she had taken my kids to the McDonald's at a very early age. And here we are in the car. The kids are in the car seats, and out of their peripheral vision, they see the golden arches must be through the window, and they started saying McDonald's, McDonald's, like two little birds back there. And I looked at my wife. I said, "Did you take the kids to McDonald's? What is it about McDonald's and fast food where the kids develop this very rapid imprinting? How does that work?"
It's like a little robot, they get
Yeah, how
obsessed.
does that work?
It's the primary colors on the sign. They're very attracted to primary colors. I mean, it's all marketing. They know what they're doing. The character, Ronald McDonald, one of the commercials years ago, that was always really cute, and they had songs. And you know, I think it's fine to do every once in a while, birthday party or whatever. And they have those little play areas now, so that attracts them to go in. But I really think they are doing some healthy options. So just look carefully at your menu. I'm not saying not to have French fries or not to have chicken nuggets or whatever. I like to make sure it's real chicken nuggets, so that's important. And what they're frying it in, I think that's about to change. What it's being
Mhm.
cooked in. So, and ketchup has tons of sugar in it. No offense
Yeah.
against ketchup, but it has a lot of sugar and corn syrup and stuff like that. So, everything has sugar. Sugar is in everything.
Now, as the alphabet chef, how do you navigate this kind of increasing pool of kids with food allergies, nut allergies, peanut, gluten, dairy, egg? Are you seeing this more and more in your practice?
I see it some, and the teachers and the parents let me know when that is an issue, gluten and peanut allergies, and we have to be careful. I'm doing this as a business, so I have to be careful. But the kids know. when they can't have something. And I'm not seeing it as an increase. Maybe 3 out of 20 kids may have something. So it's not. I don't see it increasing, but and I love the gluten-free options. So there's tons of things coming out now with that, and I try to bring.
In general, is gluten-free healthier, do you think?
I like it. Yeah, I think it's a good option. But if you stick to fruits and vegetables, the natural earth-grown things, you're pretty safe.
You certainly can't lose. I had become gluten-free later in life, and I honestly think it was after my third episode of COVID. And it turns out that on this Focal Point Substack, I published the scientific rationale of how COVID infection can turn somebody to be gluten sensitive, actually through an autoimmune process. I'm pretty sure it happened to me. So I've been navigating gluten free, and I noticed that my weight is lower, and my wife is being very creative. So this morning, and we have it rarely, but my daughter is here for her birthday. We had gluten-free pancakes, but they were made out of fava beans, and they were absolutely delicious and filling. Let me tell you what, after breakfast, I just, wow, I skipped lunch. I was really full. So are you finding these types of creative options for parents to explore?
Yeah, I want to get that recipe from you actually, because I'd like to have vegan options for people,
Mhm.
and I mean, I try to have a vast amount of things that I talk about, because different families have different, beliefs and different things they want to do with their kids. But my main focus is fruits and vegetables, and I take letters of the alphabet and I focus on that letter of the week for the
Mhm.
program. And I usually do and even I throw almonds in there for A, or everything that begins with A, and then I could do B and C and D. So and sometimes I focus on an attitude with that letter. Like E would be exercise, or something that's not necessarily a food thing, but has to do with my program, teaching
Mhm.
kids to do it, or
And they,
happy, you know.
I bet they learn their alphabet better too, huh?
Well, yeah, sure. I have to say stuff though.
Now, what's your strategy for a child who comes home from school? And let's say it's 3 or 4 o'clock, and they come home and they say, "Mom, I'm hungry." And, it's obviously not dinner time. Mom may be busy with something. Let's say she's on a Zoom call. Dad isn't home from work. What types of strategies are kind of fun and healthy strategies for the "Mom, I'm hungry" after school chirp that the parents will hear?
Well, I always tell the kids that I see that carbs and things that have a lot of sugar will be processed quicker in your body. So you're going to
Mhm,
get hungry quicker if you don't have things like protein and different things that make you feel full. So after school snacks, you don't want them to get too full, but you want them to have a little something, grapes or anything, cheese sticks, cheese squares that's
mhm,
pre-cut. You can say, hey, go in the fridge and, it's already pre-cut.
mhm,
I'm into that. Just have it ready to go, accessible to the kids. They can just grab oranges that have already been sliced or peeled,
mm.
little mandarins. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you can do so when kids come home, they'll just go in the fridge themselves and grab it if mom's on a Zoom call or whatever, or dad or whatever. And it works out great.
So the strategy is to have something ready. So right to have maybe some peeled and cut carrots or
Right.
celery, something like that. For adults, I don't have children in my practice. For my adults, what what adults are seeking is hunger control. They simply just want to control hunger enough, and if hunger is controlled, then the food urge is controlled, and you can kind of move on. And I've always found the best appetite suppressant foods, and again, the key is to just have a few of them, are nuts. And so I've always thought the tree nuts, which are walnuts, almonds, and pecans, are very good hunger killers. I've always told patients, listen, have a couple shelled walnuts, chew them good, and then ask yourself afterwards, are you still hungry? And the appetite suppressant effects of nuts are, in my view, are almost unparalleled. What's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought nuts up. I love nuts. Pistachios,
Hmm.
walnuts are my favorite. I like almonds without the skin.
Hmm.
Uh, um, uh, I think a mix of granola of something, raisin with raisins in it, because that's extra
Hmm.
fiber. It's always dried fruits. They come
Yep.
in bags that are already pre-cut. That's great.
You know,
Yeah,
my fave in the dried food category, again for hunger control, are dried figs. And again, I've had like a hungry obese patient. I say, have a couple of dried figs, chew them good, and then ask yourself, is your hunger controlled? Yeah. So there's a process of self-talk. Self-talk means talk to yourself and ask yourself, do you feel satiated? And I've always felt that's a good strategy. Um,
dried
what
fruit
else?
is high in sugar, though. Any kind of dried fruit is really high in sugar. So,
Right, right. So you have the sugar to contend with.
yeah.
What about this? I've always noticed this when I get home and I'm the one who's hungry. Um, Many times I haven't had enough water, and the body sometimes gets tricked between hunger and thirst. And so I'll just drink some water. I'll never forget when I was a kid, when I get home, I say, Mom, I'm hungry. My mom would say, drink some water. What do you think about that? To just
I think
kind of,
that's so true.
you think
I
it's true?
I think it's so true. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. A lot of times we're just dehydrated, and
Hmm.
I think your mom was right. I like your mom.
I tell you,
And
moms should get a lot of credit. Drink some water. So, what I've found is if you drink some water, kind of get ready. And then for me, if I can get out the door and exercise after I get home from work, and
mm,
then within honestly a few steps of jogging or a block or so of biking, my hunger goes away. It's interesting when you exercise, hunger seems to go away, and it seems like I'm lighter and I'm faster. Conversely, if I eat, then I go exercise, I'm like, oh, I just feel like I'm so weighted down. So seems like exercise is a good strategy. Maybe having some water and just letting the kids go play in the backyard for a while. What do you think about that?
sure, I love it. Another thing is even as adults and kids, we crave like certain things. Like sometimes I want something crunchy or I want something sweet or whatever. So we open up this big bag of chips,
Mm,
and before you know it, we've eaten the whole bag.
I
So
know.
I like buying, and for kids, it's good too. Is the little if you're going to eat chips or pretzels or whatever, get the smaller bags. Can you kind of quantified your serving size? You just eat the
Mhm.
bag. Oh, I'm done. I've satisfied that crunch that I want, and then you're not eating a whole bag of whatever chips or whatever. Or you can have carrot chips instead of chips.
Well, I
But
was going to ask you about that. My wife buys these chips, where they're not just regular chips. They're chips made out of various types of beans, fava beans, and she's
chickpeas,
kind of, yeah. So what do you think about those? I mean, can you actually have chips and have chips be a healthy snack?
yeah, you can, and they have the chickpea and the all kinds of
Hmm.
beans. But the oils, make sure you look at the oils, what type of oil. Coconut oil, avocado oil is the best if they're
Hmm.
fried in those. So that's always a trick. But usually, if it's something healthy like that, they're going to use good oils, you know, or get baked instead of, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of companies now that have baked items instead of fried. So
Hmm.
but there's still some dyes in there. Watch out for the dyes. And, I think, the bean, there's so many healthy options, but do you ever notice in the grocery store, the healthy options for the chips and the stuff is in a different aisle than the chips and the pretzels? Pretzels in them have a big aisle, but then they have one little section.
Yes, it's hard to find. I know we were on a ski trip, so we were going to a grocery store we don't normally go to, And we just kept looking for the healthy options and just kept looking. And finally, we found it and tucked away in some corner. And there was our options that are making it too hard. So far we've covered kind of general healthy choices, high quality sources of protein, fresh fruits and vegetables. We've covered snacks. In our time remaining, though, I mean, what people really want to know, and what the kids really, really want to know from the Alphabet Chef is they want to know about sweets and desserts. So what are some of your top line messages there?
Well, sugar is really, really bad, but don't deprive yourself of anything. If you want something, have it every once in a while. A birthday cake, yes, of course, on your birthday. Just don't have it every day. Don't have donuts every day for breakfast. Have a yogurt or a parfait the next day. And another thing I forgot to mention is if you're eating the same thing every day, your body gets used to breaking down that formula.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to change things up, and that actually speeds up your metabolism to do that. You're not eating, your body doesn't recognize, oh, I just had that yesterday, I don't have to work as hard. It has to figure out the process of how it's digesting that, so that actually makes your metabolism speed up. So that'll burn off more calories. But the sugars and stuff, sodas, again, try not to, don't have a lot of sugars.
Well, how about just not buy soda? Those big 2-liter bottles how about just not having soda in the house? What do you think about that?
I think I'm going to have all the soda people on me saying, "Why did you say that?" We're not here to. They take advantage of us not thinking, oh, that's actually really bad for us. So the 2 liters, they have the tiny sodas now. If you want to have one of those little cans of mini sodas,
But Laura, isn't it true that if you don't have something in the house, it's very unlikely you're going to go get it? Let's say it's 4 or 5 o'clock and there's kids and the mother and the father's coming home. I mean, if it's not in the house, it's by and large not going to be consumed. I mean, that's been my experience. If our house is not loaded up with all kinds of candies, we're not going to go buy them. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I tell parents, we're the purchasers. The kids don't have money going out. So you're right. We're responsible for, and get the kids to shop with you, but, make it accessible.
So in this category of sweets, though, how do you advise on chocolate and the percent cocoa in things?
Ooh, that's like my weakness. I love chocolate.
Oh, your eyes just lit up when I said that. Yes.
Yes.
I love chocolate.
I like the darker chocolate is better for the higher content. But I like milk chocolate too. But that's still, sugar, moderation again. But there's chocolate that's made with stevia now. You can find all kinds of alternative. Monk fruit is another sweetener that is good. Stevia is they're all plant origins of sweetness. I actually just tasted a stevia leaf yesterday at my friend's house. She has a stevia plant. I was like, what?
Oh, really?
I put it in my mouth. It was so sweet.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just amazing. Some alternatives with chocolate and sweets that you can get. Can
I ask you, while we're on the topic, can I ask you an adult question? My wife and I love coffee every morning. And there's been some discussion about the sweeteners in coffee, and it's gone from regular sugar to raw sugar to stevia, agave, modified things like Splenda and Equal. I mean, how do you advise people who want to be healthy? They drink coffee and they want just a little sweetener in it.
Well, for me personally, I don't want to talk about anybody else. Brand names I'm not going to mention, but I like the stevia products and the monk fruit products the best for sweeteners.
Okay.
Or honey.
Okay. Well, any particular type of honey?
I like the local honeys because then you're getting the bee pollens in there for allergies. I love buying local. If you look on the back of the bottle, you'll see the local honey to your area, and that's the bees that are in your area. So the
Oh,
pollen that's in the honey, it helps you, with allergies and things like that. So,
well,
oh,
I mean, are you saying that it helps in the sense of um, kind of getting the body exposed to it, so you don't develop
right.
bee allergies? Is that the idea?
That's what I've heard. So I
Wow.
like local honey. I don't whatever the brand is, it doesn't matter to me. But as long as it's the local bees that are in your area, like I wouldn't buy honey from New Jersey, or
Hmm.
because I'm
Yeah,
in
a lot
Florida.
of honey comes from New Zealand or Australia, and there may be something to Manuka honey. Have you ever tried that?
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Do you
it
like
has some medicinal properties. My wife is
that?
into that. I'm sure she's going to listen to this show with great with great interest. Yeah, so Manuka honey
Oh,
is something to think about. So you think that the monk fruit? I wanted to let you know we did try in this sweet category. We tried date sugar. Have you ever had that?
oh.
Yeah, so it's derived from dates, and it has a little fiber. It's a little filmy in it. I'm not sure you can have it in coffee much, but my wife has decided that's kind of a go-to sweetener when you have
I,
oatmeal or something like that. Yeah.
you ever done a food test with your hair? Of food
No.
where you take a sample of your hair, you mail it off, tells you what kind of, dates are one of my no-nos, so I can't have.
Oh,
Like,
really? What
yeah,
happens? What happens when you eat dates?
well, my body doesn't like it. So
Really?
yeah, because you take a piece of your hair, you mail it off, and they tell you what foods that you should avoid.
Wow. That's
And
pretty
dates are on
interesting.
there. So
That's pretty interesting. Well,
you,
we've certainly covered a tremendous range of interest here. We've been talking to Laura St. John. She's got a big smile, bright eyes, and she is, you guessed it, she's the alphabet chef. Her career is to make food fun and healthy and nutritious for children. I think she should have a place in the presidential cabinet to make America healthy again, because there's no doubt about it. We are what we eat, and making healthy choices, portion control, physical activity, weight control over time. This really sets the pattern, and it's so critically important. Laura, do you have any final words for our audience?
yeah, I was just saying that sleep is important too.
Mm.
Make sure we all get enough rest. Your kids get enough rest. And water. We talked about water, and be an example to your kids. They're watching us and they're listening to us. So
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
whatever we they're gonna follow what we do. So I
But,
try to get kids to have
but don't
input.
you think, particularly on the bad things, this idea of permissiveness? So if mom and dad open up an Oreo cookie tray and just knock it down with glasses of milk, the kids see that, right?
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. There's
yeah.
no
We don't
doubt
want
about it.
to do that.
Wow.
We
Well,
don't want to
we got to set a good example, whether we're parents or grandparents.
perfect. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I make
Well,
mistakes.
yeah. No one is, but life is a journey, and I think we all strive to steadily improve. Laura, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's
Bye.
Bye. Let's get real. Let's get loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. This is a McCullough Report and Focal Points Substack. I'm Dr. Peter McCullough, your host. Thanks for watching.